So, a little while back, I talked about my top 10 worst events in Marvel Comics. Like, my top 10 worst, my most hated events, personally, for Marvel Comics. Well, time to do my favorite. Now, as always, with all of these, we have to go through some disclaimers. One, I haven't read every single event, so if I missed an event, sorry. Hell, Chris sent me an event, Marvel comic event, that I still haven't gotten around to reading. So who knows? This list will probably change in the future, as will the worst in the future as well. Because sometimes you can have really cool stuff, and other times you have egregiously bad stuff too. Also, next rule: there will be no X-Men events on here. There may be Marvel events with the X-Men characters featuring, but it won't be a X-Men centric event on here. Reason being, there are so many X-Men events, it would have felt like cheating to put X amount of X-Men events on here. In fact, I might do in the future top 10 worst and favorite X-Men events in the future. Damn chair, come on. So yeah, it's not that I'm an X-Men hater. In fact, I'm an X-Men lover, but there are so many events. I tried doing this list once, and I was like, I can't do this with... There's so many X-Men events, so I decided to exclude the X-Men and do them for a future list at another time. So, also, there are going to be... These are events, as in they feature everybody. There is one that is kind of technically an Avengers event, technically too, but they all kind of really correlate to one another. And they all have massive effects to the Marvel Universe on a whole. So, yeah. And as always, if you think a event should be higher or lower on the list, that's totally fine. No ill will against you. And these are just my personal favorites, and I'm always excited in the comments below to read what your favorite events are in the comments below. So yeah, let's get started with my number 10. And at number 10, we have Monsters Unleashed. Monsters Unleashed is a dumb, stupid event that came off the heels of the end of Secret Empire. But I love it. It was coming off the heels of a very contentious event, and Marvel events were like, that's enough. And Cullen Bunn was just like, I just want to do a story about kaiju. And they're like, okay. Now, some of the art isn't great, especially Salvador Larroca's artwork, but if you are a big kaiju fan, you're gonna love this. This also was probably my favorite event of that era of Marvel, because we just had Inhumans vs. X-Men, we just had all of this, and we have an event where we have the Inhumans, the X-Men, all of these characters fighting a common enemy, which are giant monsters coming to wreck shit. So of course I'm gonna like that. It feels like Cullen Bunn wanted to tell this story and really had a lot of hope for it, but Secret Empire and the few other events that happened prior just poisoned the well. So it's a very underrated event. I know it's nothing like groundbreaking or whatever, but it's fun. And we needed a fun event at the time, after the bullshit we just slogged through. So, Monsters Unleashed at number 10. Moving on to number 9, and that is the Kree-Skrull War. The Kree-Skrull War is technically an Avengers story arc, but is technically considered the first event in Marvel Comics, featuring all of these characters from Captain Marvel to Fantastic Four to all of them being a major Marvel event. In fact, it's actually inspiration for... it's like the groundwork for every other event. So I kind of figured, yeah, is it dumb and goofy? Yes. It's kind of a slog to get through also. But I couldn't look away from, the fun goofiness that Roy Thomas could throw into an event. Plus, this also is the reason, not only do we have Marvel events now, for better or for worse, for who you ask, but it's also the reason why we have DC events too. It was a major, inspiration for Crisis on Infinite Earths. It gave it gave Wolfman and Perez and the higher ups at DC the idea that maybe a giant story arc that features so many characters could work. So give thanks to this event. Is it fucking stupid? Yeah. It's also, like I said, kind of boring at points. But God help me, it's really good. It's really good. It's really fun, and also, like, it's fun, stupid, it's just kind of goofy and dumb, and a little boring at points, but you can't take away from the importance of this book. So that's why I felt it should be here. And also, I still have fun with it, and also, can someone put 3 cows shot me down as a shirt? I don't know if that's a shirt already, but I want that to be a shirt. I would greatly appreciate it. Anyway, moving on now to number 8. Number 8 is, yes, I am, if you're wondering, yes, I do have it written down. Thank you for asking. Number 8 is King in Black. King in Black is a moderately recent event that I did not think would work. Absolute Carnage, while it was fun, was more of setup to this. King in Black is the epitome of what happens when you give a 90s kid the chance to write a Marvel event. It's also a Venom-centric event. Something you would never think in this day and age, outside of the 90s, of happening. Like, just picture that for a second. Just really picture that for a hot second. Of having a Marvel event in this day and age where you have all of the characters centered around Venom as the central character. And you have the X-Men are here, the Avengers are here, Fantastic Four are here, and they're all taking on a massive opponent that not one hero can fight alone. It's fun, it's very refreshing, and Ryan Stegman's artwork is pretty damn good. This is a comic that has a lot going for it. Is it very straightforward and not deep thinking? Yeah. But Null was a really cool villain. I kind of don't want him back. I heard, like, he is coming back in some capacity, which I'm like, he was good for what we had. He didn't need to be, we don't need Null anymore. Null served his purpose in this event. And, yeah, like I said, Donny Cates, one of my favorite writers in comics, not just at Marvel, tells a really fun story. And a lot of these are fun. So, there you go, King in Black. Next up at number 7, Secret Wars 2015. Secret Wars 2015, I look back on, and I, at one point, did not like it, but I recently cycled back to thinking about it more. And I'd like to own it in trade. Like, I'd love to own this as a whole-ass trade. And it would be really fun because it's Jonathan Hickman really, like, built this up. Like, he really didn't he? He really, like, built this up through his entire run at major run at Marvel, from Fantastic Four to New Avengers, should have been called Illuminati, to Avengers, to all of it was building to a major event that could be only described as epic. And by God, was it epic, from having it. It's also a love letter to my favorite superhero team, the Fantastic Four. And especially after the years of treatment that happened later with not just the Fantastic Four, but also the X-Men, it was a very bittersweet love letter to those characters, to Reed and the entire team. So yeah, Secret Wars 2015. It was the ultimate Fantastic Four, not ultimate Fantastic Four, but the greatest Fantastic Four story of our age. So there you go. Even though, yes, the all-new, all-different era really did wear out its welcome really fast, didn't it? I mean, I like a lot of the stuff from the all-new, all-different era. Just a preference before I go any further. I do like a lot of the stuff, but I feel like they did way too much in too soon, and I don't think they had a plan for it. Anyway, so there you go, Secret Wars 2015. Next up at number 6, War of Kings. I really had to stop myself from putting every single cosmic event from Marvel on here. But trust me, I had to at least put some on here, on this list. If this list was longer, you'd probably see a lot more cosmic events on here. Because there was a time, boys and girls, in Marvel, it was so much of a goddamn slog to read Marvel books that when the cosmic stuff came out, thanks to one event, which will be on here, don't worry, we'll get to that one later, basically, it was a breath of fresh air to read competent writing and also feature characters that had a whole other level of dimension to them. It brought levels of character to Black Bolt and the other Inhumans. It gave credence to all these other things that going on with the Shi'ar, with the Kree, with the Skrulls. And yeah, War of Kings is a embodiment of that. You have the all-out war between the Inhumans and Vulcan as the main villain. Vulcan, a character who is another Summers brother who no one gave a shit about and became a really damn good villain for this comic. War of Kings is a galactic epic. There is no other word I can say other than it was a cosmic epic, unlike any I had seen before. So, yeah. Of course War of Kings was going to be on here. Now we're coming to the top 5. And number 5, 2 words. Hulk smash! That sucked, I'm sorry. But yeah, World War Hulk. Did you not think World War Hulk was going to be on here? Like, did you... At one point, I'm asking you personally, you the listener, how long you been here, huh? How fucking long you been here? How long you been on this channel, huh? Do you not realize that the Hulk is my favorite superhero? And you thought I wouldn't put World War Hulk on here, huh? Who do you think you are? I'll tell you who you are. You're one of my subscribers. Anyway, so World War Hulk was another comic that, much like War of Kings, was a comic that was a breath of fresh air. It was a book that came from after we just had Civil War, everything sucks, Cap's gone, and the Hulk is back and he is pissed. It is a popcorn summer flick if there ever was one. This is Greg Pak doing, basically shitting on how... I think he really did hate Civil War. I think he really hated it with a passion because he just drags his dick all over it. And John Romita Jr.'s artwork is phenomenal. This is a great event. It's an action summer flick and just showcases the Hulk at his best. So yeah, World War Hulk, it was going to be on here. So let's move on now to number 4, Secret Wars, the original 1980s Secret Wars. For an event that was more or less to push a toy line, no, really, that's why it was made, was to push the toy line for Kenner. It's really fun. It's this fun cosmic event where it's just imagine a kid just took all of his toys out of the toy box and slammed them into each other. This is also, yes, where we get the black costume that would lead to Venom at some later on in history. Secret Wars is just ridiculous, but at the same time, it's so much fun. And I feel like that's where Marvel events are really the best. Is when they're just being ridiculous if it hasn't been obvious enough. And this one is and this is one of the quintessential Marvel events, honestly. Like, really, it's one of the events that is like, when you think Marvel events, this is it. Like, this is the big one. Like, this is one of the big ones, and I cannot wait to see what they'll take for this for the MCU. So next up, let's move on to number 3, Acts of Vengeance. Guys, you knew this was going to be on here at one point or another. You knew Acts of Vengeance was going to be on this list. How much have I talked about it? How much have I talked about the idea? How much I've, talked about like different versions of the idea? It's just something you guys knew was going to happen. At one point or another, you knew it was going to happen. Like, you had to have known. Acts of Vengeance is such a simple idea, but it was done, granted, to a massive extent that took 3 trades. No, really, it did. 3 trades that are over $60. Holy shit, that's a bite out of my wallet. And, yeah, does it give us a absolute banger of a story that's so simple? It's literally, hey you, Mandarin, you're gonna fight the X-Men. Grey Gargoyle, you're gonna fight the Hulk. All of you D-list characters outside of Magneto, you're all gonna fight Spider-Man, who has cosmic powers now, and is really Captain Universe, and he's going to fight a Tri-Sentinel. That does happen. Spoiler alert, the Spider-Man story is kind of the weak point of it, I'm sorry to say. But everything else, especially... This is meant to be an Avengers event, though. That the Avengers were the main story, everything else was kind of all spun out of it. But yeah, Acts of Vengeance, I would love to see an Acts of Vengeance 2, but on a more held together story, maybe? Maybe have it a more tighter knit, or just have it just be absolutely redonkulous, just like the previous one. I think I'm leaning towards the latter now that I think about it. Alright, so, moving on to number 2, and that is none other than Annihilation. Annihilation is one of the greatest Marvel events of all time. It is, without a doubt, one of the greatest events, and was a cosmic event that we needed after Civil War. Like I said, there was a time where the cosmic Marvel stuff was just trouncing the stuff you saw in Marvel on Earth. There was no point where people did not... it was a bunch of characters no one cared about, and then along came Annihilus, a character who was just kind of relegated to the background in terms of Fantastic Four, and then he's just going to kill the universe. He is using Galactus as a war machine. And this is the formation of the Guardians of the Galaxy we know today. This is an important Marvel event in every sense of the word, and it is just nothing short of just epic. I would love to collect this in trade, but it is getting harder and harder to find the trades. So, yeah, I would love to collect the entire comic. But, like I said, this is when I read it online and, on separate issues, yeah, it's really fucking good. It's just... And, yeah, we all know the story. Anyway, so, you're probably wondering what number 1 is. Actually, you're not. If you know Marvel, then you probably can guess what the number 1 event is. And that is Infinity Gauntlet. Infinity Gauntlet is the quintessential Marvel event. It is, when you think Marvel events, Infinity Gauntlet is the one that comes to mind. It is the embodiment of what a Marvel event should be. The entire Marvel universe versus one big bad. And that big bad is Thanos. And it talks about philosophical, the philosophical points of being a god. It talks about, the meanings of a mortal, and it does boil down to what Jim Starlin always has, and that's Thanos and Adam Warlock, which we'll never get in the MCU, which kind of is annoying. But there was no the moment I was doing this list, I was like, yeah, Infinity Gauntlet is number 1. It's my all-time favorite event. Even when I reread it again, I was like, Infinity Gauntlet's not going to hold up, right? No, it still holds up. Do the other Infinity stories like Infinity Crusade and Infinity War, do they hold up? Not really. But you can't look away and say... but you can always look back and go, Infinity Gauntlet, though. Yeah. So there you go, guys. That is pretty much my top 10 favorite events in Marvel Comics. A list that will probably change in the future. And also, Devil's Reign... There were a few that came really close to be on this list, like Devil's Reign and a few others here and there. But yeah, like I said, if you think an event should be higher or lower on the list, that's totally fine. I'm always excited to hear yours. But like I said, what are your top 10 favorite events? Let me know in the comments below. And once again, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.